Hi, everybody. I'm Michelle, and we're going to do using lyric tracks tonight. Let's make it turn. Just in case you didn't know who I was, Daryl and I are the two lovely people who run Crockett Fantasy of Lights. That's what I do all day long now. And the biggest part that I like about Singing Faces is they're what got me stuck into this hobby or sucked into this hobby, however you want to consider it. Daryl started it for us, or started it 1 year. And as soon as I saw people that had singing displays, I was like, hey, I want to do those. So I put a picture down here of our very first Singing Faces, which we made with chicken wire and in our living room, and I sequenced using LOR, which was a whole lot harder than it is nowadays. And then the other picture is now we use the singing bulbs, and we use those we've used them the past 2 or 3 years. They sing every song in our show that can have a singing face. We have I sequence them, I make them sing. So I will say, and one of the biggest things that I've found, especially in the last few years, and even more so in the last couple of weeks, is xLights and their development have made Singing Faces so much easier to use just in the last few weeks. I'm going to be going over the new release with the Faces download and the release a few versions back where you could download the Boscoyo props, also simplified things. We've been selling custom lyric tracks for the past few years, along when we started Crockett Fantasy of Lights. And in doing that, I've learned lots of tricks and ways not only to do them, which I'm not focusing on actually making the lyric tracks tonight, but I'm helping everybody else get them in their shows. So that's kind of what I'm focusing on tonight. The biggest part of getting the lyric track in your show is setting them up. And like I just said, just since the beginning of the year, this has gotten a little bit easier. So the best part about lyric tracks is they're not dependent on your prop. So if you're one of those people who likes to change your display from year to year, being able to use a lyric track is simple. It's pretty easy to switch over props. Or if you have like the bulbs now and you're thinking about getting the P10 and the P5 panels because you see everybody else doing it and you see all those new faces that are in there. Just because you sequenced something last year for a bulb doesn't mean you can't use it this coming year on a matrix. The ability to go between the two make it really easy. I even had someone that I did lyric tracks for a couple of years ago that just did, just had the normal AC 8-channel faces, and they upgraded to some pixel bulbs. And he was very excited when I told him he didn't have to do his lyric tracks again. And I walked him through just how to change it. So, and because of that, sharing it's easy, which is where that big Singing Face group has come from. Y'all are going to be able to share all those quickly within your sequences or within your group. Second thing, they've made lots of updates this year. So the prop import, you're going to see in a second. I'm going to show you that, how it imports with, not all of them. I did find a few that aren't done yet, but most of them import with the faces settings and the node ranges and stuff already in there. And then you have the download feature for the images for the Singing Faces on a matrix. And then again, not going to go over how to create lyric tracks. I know just in the past couple of weeks, there have been lots of Zoom sessions with the new Faces group going on how to do that. So I know there's lots of information out there on how to make the tracks. But once you have them made, I'm going to show you kind of what you can do with them. So the first thing is you have to kind of pick the prop you want to use it on. You can use a regular AC face if you still have, the 8-channel faces. If you're still running, running them through Lure, it works as well. You can use the pixel props. You can do those with single nodes, or you can do them with node ranges. It just depends on how you have it set up and what kind of pixels you're using. And then you can also put your faces on a mega tree, a pixel matrix, and all of the P10, the P5s, the virtual mix, all those matrix options. I was going to show you, let me exit from this real quick. There are lots of options, and picking your faces is going to, depending on what you have, is going to depend on how you do your faces. We have just the normal face props. This is the bulb. It was the hanging bulb. I imported it from the vendor download section, and you can see it comes with, let me get it. It comes with all of the node ranges and stuff in there. So you don't have to do any of the setup work, which is what took a lot of time previously. It also comes, It also comes with the submodels in it, which I'll talk about later, but you can see there's the bulb, and they have all the mouths done for you. There are reasons that you might need submodels that we'll go into later, but having it download with all that stuff is amazing. One of these, this is one of their Halloween faces. It's the same thing. It came in with everything. And this is just a plain old, it was actually someone that I sequenced, just a 8-channel face. So you can, let me make it smaller. You can see that it's just 8 channels, nice and simple. It'll still do the exact same things. And it's set up differently because you will set it up using the single node range instead of the node ranges. You'll just do the single node. It all works. Then you have your matrix panels. I set up, just so you can see, I'm going to show you in a second. This would be a 2x2 P10 matrix. And this one is a 2x2 P5 matrix. You can see the density is different, and that's going to come into play in a second when you see the images put on there. You can use megatrees. Again, I set up 2 megatrees just so you can see the difference. This one was 16 strings of 50 nodes. And then this one, I think I just doubled it. So it was 32 strings of 100 nodes. So you can just see, and you'll see easily, the more dense your pixels are, the easier it is to see those faces. And then I also downloaded, I used Boscoyo's Monster Matrix, and they have it to where you can set it up in 3 different widths. There's or not 3 different widths, but you can put the pixels in 3 different things, so you can have a small or less nodes. So that would be the less nodes. It was 28 strings, 14 strings of 28. Then there's the medium one, which was 21 strings of 42. And then you could go max and fill in every hole that they have, which was 42 strings of 84. So the reason I did this was over here. This is just an old lyric track that I did. I put the same image on all of the matrix type settings, matrix props. So you can see, because I think this is kind of one of the biggest things, is being able to see how different it'll look on the different props. So the face props are over here. They're going to be the same no matter what. But you have your P10 and your P5, your less dense tree, your more dense tree, and then the pixel matrices. And I'm sorry if I know last week we had issues with the volume being loud once we press play. So I'm sorry if it goes crazy. But you'll be able to see
Shopping, Christmas,
the
time
difference.
is here. The sleigh bells and the red-nosed deer. Songs and songs we love to hear, all played 1,000 times each year. Heard this same song 20 times.
So the Olaf I grabbed off of the download thing. It was one of the first snowmen, and my daughter was sitting next to me when I was doing this, and she was all excited about Olaf. And so you can see between the P10 and the P5 just how much more clarity you get. Same thing with your pixel trees and then the different matrices. One of the things with the download feature is, as depending on the image you get, it might work better on other things. So I grabbed one of the other things. I believe this was just it was under the skull thing. It's you can see, since it's not as detailed, that it kind of works better on the less dense props. So wanted to show that. So depending on the look you want, you're going to have to decide on which prop you want to use or how many pixels you want to push or put on a tree or whatever. Like I said, we use these bulbs. We have 3 P10 panels that we put up, not this past year, but the year before. I don't know that we're going to put them up again. I like my bulbs, but everybody has their different, opinions. Next, going back, there's this whole, with this last update, the 0.5 update, there is now a library of image files that you can use to put on your matrices. There are people making from lots of faces to add in. Images are going to look different based on your prop density. I'm going to quickly show you how those downloads work by importing another one. So I'm going to do it on one of the panels because it's just easier and it'll be there to use later. We can do it on the P10 panel. All you do is you click on the little faces window and it'll pop up your face definition. Click on add. I don't know what I'm going to download, so I'll just label it Christmas for right now. And when it opens up, click the wrong thing. And you click the matrix, you have this lovely button that says download, and it will pull up the library of stuff. And they are categorized as best as they can, best as they can be. There's Christmas and there's Halloween, and then there's other, which has some really funny things in it if you ever stop to look, like a pineapple. So you can pick whatever prop you need. There's elves, Grinch. We'll do the Grinch and all you have to do is click insert face and everything populates. I had this issue with some of the other ones, that I was playing with yesterday, that sometimes they can't get mapped, but it looks like they were all mapped in there. You can still, even though it populates, you can still double click on it and it'll show you, here's all the Grinch ones that I just downloaded right here. So if you're missing one, you can still get to it and you can still manually change it. These look like they all populated, so I don't know where that came from. And then over here on your matrix now, instead of Olaf, I did it on the P10. Instead of Olaf, or I didn't press save. What did I do wrong? Try that again. Yes, okay. Hit save. So over here on the P10 panel, I can change it to Christmas because that's what I labeled it. And now I have a Grinch there instead of having Olaf there. I have other ones on here too. But that's how easy it is to download them and to use them. And it looks, based on the way it's going right now, it looks like all the images are there. If there is an image missing, it'll black out for a second. So you'll be able to tell if that image is gone. So that's how you use that image files. I've heard there's lots of images coming. There's a good number in there and it's just going to get bigger and bigger. You will need to pay attention, and I know that there is stuff in there that tells you the size, depending on what type of matrix you're using. You're going to have to, they're not all going to look great on your matrix. So you just have to keep that in mind. The biggest thing is I like to have props that I can use multiple times. Like, we don't do monster faces for Halloween and then bulb faces for Christmas. What we do is put our bulbs out at Halloween, but we keep the outline off of them. When I sequence them, I just sequence it as kind of a floating face, so that I can still have those lyric tracks at Halloween. This year, they got to sing "Look What You Made Me Do" because that was my son's favorite song. Not as bold, but it's kind of singing ghost faces. And then come Christmas time, we put the bulb outline back on, and it looks like that. If you're using matrices, or if you have your pixel tree out, your mega tree out, at Halloween time or any other time, then you have a lot of variety in what faces you can use. We didn't get a pixel tree up this year. We were lucky to get any show up this year, but we didn't get the pixel tree up, so we didn't get to use the singing faces on them this year. But that gives you that variety. So where to get lyric tracks? That is going to be the next step. So you've decided you want your P5 panels or your P10 panels, or I can see some of you are thinking about upgrading to P5s from your P10 panels. You've got them. How are you going to now get the lyric tracks? Well, there's really 4 ways to do it. You can create them on your own. Some people find it easier to create them than others. You can buy them from people. I still have lots of custom requests, especially if for people who are I've had some requests for strange songs, not really Christmas or Halloween themed, but they want to use them in their display. So it's not something that people are, willing or have the ability to share, because most people don't want them. You can import them from sequences you might have if you're coming over from LOR, or you can use shared ones. I know that there is now that big group of the xLights Singing Faces group where y'all are going to have a good bit of shared sequences. I believe there were some shared sequences on the Google Drive at the end of last year. It could easily be you and a friend decide that you want to use these 2 songs, and you sequence one and they sequence one, and you're done. So those are your ways. The ones that you create or buy or shared and that are created in xLights are going to be really easy to import. So I'm going to show those later when we get into xLights more. But if you have them from LOR, I'm going to show you really quickly 2, well, not 2, but the different ways you can import them in. So let me close this one. Yeah, we need that. And we used LOR for our first 2 years. I think it was 2 years. Might have been 3 years. And the very end of our show that year, our computer crashed, and the next year we moved on to using Pi's and FPP and stuff to do our show. So, and we don't have any more PCs in our house. We only have Macs. So I haven't been able to use LOR in like 5 years, which is fine because we're good with xLights. But Ed wanted me to go over how to import stuff from xLights, from LOR into xLights, especially the lyric tracks and the different ways you can do it. So he sent me one of his lyric tracks from there, and I'm going to show you really quick. It's simple. You grab it. There it is. It was the Grinch song, and you'll get the channel mapping thing. And if you are mapping it to the same prop, so if you had that 8-channel singing face that you were using, and you're still using the 8-channel singing face, which was the pumpkin and all the things that I had, then all you have to do is match up. This one actually had 4 faces. So there was all of the ones are one face, all of the twos are a face. So basically, you have to know which face is, or which node is which face, and which how they correspond, which you should have because they're your props. I know that node 1 was the outline, so you can stick it on the outline. Oops, wrong one. Go away. Was the outline. Node 2 was, I think, the upper lip. Upper lip's down here. So you can fit it in there, sort of like when you're mapping sequences and put it in. Or the other thing you can do is you can actually use the submodels of a pixel prop and do the same thing. And I played with this earlier so I can make it work. The mouth 1 on the submodel is the same thing as the top lip in the old sequence, or the upper lip. The outline is the bulb, and the outline is also the socket. So you can place them in more than one place if you have to. So like the eye left and the eye right, that would be the open eyes. So you'd put eyes open and eyes open. The blinking ones would be the closed eyes. So you set those in twice. Mouth 2 is the same as the mid lip. Mouth 3 was the same as the lower or the bottom lip. Mouth 4 was mouth 5 was the O. And wrong spot again. Mouth 5 was the O, and 4 was the ah. Of course, I wouldn't get it in the right spot. Now would I? 4 was the ah. And you can set the color here so that the colors don't change, or you can leave it either way. You can put it in. I don't want to save. And once you do that, you can see it all imports down here. And you now have that lyric track. It will work.
You're a mean one.
Oh, I have it doubled up. Hold on. I have the face effect on top of there from earlier. There you go. Now, when I imported, the ah used to be 2. It was 1 set, but as I can see on this one, the top lip's missing. So what I discovered earlier is the bottom lip was 3. So I took 3, I copied it, and I put it up here on the first lip, just on top, so it doubled up. But now when we go, you're not missing, oh, I should have probably re-rendered. You're not missing the top lip anymore. From there, you can take that lyric track, and if you want to use it on a different prop, let's say you want to put it on a matrix, which you want to use one of those images, they have a tool where you can generate lyrics from data. There's a video on how to use it that actually I watched the other day to make sure I was doing it right. You basically have to come in here, you put in some start channels and some channel numbers, and then when you're done, it creates this lyric track up here, where you don't see the lyrics or the words or the breakdowns, but you have all of the phonemes down here. So you can see, zoom in enough. So you end up getting all the phonemes, and then you can use that same track and you can put it, move it up. I can put it on a matrix. There's Olaf again, actually. And he'll sing. Go. He will sing. Well, I'd have to render it first because I just made all those changes. But if you have it all set, he should sing based on that lyric track up there.
You're as cuddly
He doesn't want to sing at the moment.
You're as charming as an eel, Mr. Gray.
It's all there. Let's see. It could be because I have the wrong Olaf selected. Ha, that's what happens when you use capital letters and non-capital letters. See if that is my thing. No, that wasn't it either. Okay, it works. I don't know why it's not working now. Of course, it's not going to work when you need it to. But it does take that lyric track and it makes it into a lyric track, so it's there. And I know it's one of those things that it's on Grinch and it's on shouldn't. Okay, maybe it's not Olaf. He shows up until I want. There he goes. See.
Monster. Mr.
And this one doesn't line up perfectly because it was my version of the song and not the version of the song that was used to sequence it, but it was enough to let y'all see how it works. So there you go. My fault for using 2 Olafs in there when I was playing around with it the other day. Play over here. So those are your ways to get the lyric tracks. When you get a shared lyric track, there are different ways to import them. You can, if you are importing it into a new sequence, you can just start it with that sequence. If you already have a sequence and you're just importing them in, we'll go over how to do those later. Looking at the face effects, the biggest issue once the lyric track is made is, of course, getting the faces on there and doing it right. And as you could just see, sometimes it takes a little playing around with because things happen. The biggest issue in all of the time that I have been working with people using the face effects is normally if your face is not working, like we just saw on the other one, perfect time, it has something to do with that effect settings window. So you want to make sure everything in this is correct. The things that you need to check and make sure it's working is that instead of phenome, as you can see, phenome was clicked when I did it. You're going to want to click timing track. You're going to want to pick the timing track that is that you want your face to sing. If you don't have a timing track option here, it means you haven't broken it down enough. I've seen people that just put the lyrics in the first line and don't break it down all the way into the phenomes, or break it down into the words and then don't break it down into the phenomes. If it's not an option in that timing track area, you haven't done something right. You have to have the correct face definition picked, which is what I just had a problem with because I had a capital Olaf and a smaller lowercase Olaf, and I was picking the wrong one. If you don't have the right face definition picked, it's not going to show. When you're importing, and this was the biggest problem I had when I sequenced for people, and then people would buy lyric tracks off the site. When it imports in, it imports with all the face effect settings, imports with everything that I had put in there. So if I had the face definition set to tree, and in your xLights version, you don't have a face effect called tree, then your face wouldn't sing. And it takes some time to go click on all the face effects and change them to your face definition. But typically, as soon as you do that, everything works. So that's where you have to watch out. I'm not sure, and I don't know if even the Singing Faces group knows how it's going to get shared, if it's going to have the face effects in there. Mine always share with the face effects in it, not just the timing tracks. So if it's shared that way, you might have to go in and do a little editing or changing around and clicking to do that. There is that bulk update feature. And depending on how you have your face effects set, the bulk update feature might actually do more harm than good, because if you have a face that's going to sing multiple timing tracks, like it sings the main vocal and then it does a backup and then it goes back to a main vocal, when you click update on this effect setting window, it's going to change everything to like that one vocal. So you're still going back and having to change the timing tracks again. So be wary of just doing update all unless you are just having that person sing the same thing through the whole thing. After the face effect window, you have your prop, your colors. If you're using matrix panels or images, then this isn't going to really make a difference. If you're using an older AC model face, its colors aren't changing. If you're using a pixel prop, either with dumb nodes or with the regular RGB nodes. It's helpful to know how the color selection works. I think some people don't even realize you can change the colors individually without using submodels. xLights changes it for you. And the first color that is picked is the mouth color. The second color that is picked is the eye color, and the third color is the outline. If you use submodels, you can change it even more. I'm going to show you later. We use submodels and on our outline. We'll run chases and stuff so our outline doesn't stay solid the whole time. And if you decide that you want your Christmas tree to be red and you want the mouth to be green and you want to switch them around, you have to change the colors in your color selection thing. You have to change their order so that it works. It's nice to have this written down that the first color is the mouth, the second color is the eyes, and the third color is the outline. I know I still don't really have that memorized, and when I go to play around with it, I click a few times before I figure it out. I even had to click a few times before I typed it in here to make sure I knew it was right. But it gives you the option to change things. You don't have to have the whole tree green the whole time. You can change it throughout. If you only have one prop, but you have 2 or 3 different singers or 2 or 3 different voices, you can change colors as the different voices come on to kind of, mimic that it's a different singer and not just the same person. And then we have face props and submodels. So you can do submodels. I had someone last year who thought that the auto eye blink wasn't blinking enough for what he wanted in his song. He wanted his eyes to blink more often through the song to give it a little more feeling. So we added in the submodel, and I could turn the lights on and off separate from the lyric tracks and made it blink more often to make him happy. Submodels also allow you to change the outline colors independent of the face effects, and which is what I'm going to show you in a little bit, where you can have a chase going around the props. And so it's not just a static green light on that tree all the time or, yellow light bulb. Also, because it's a face effect, if it's a model prop or because it's a face prop or a singing prop, doesn't mean that you constantly have to have it to sing. When you have a song that has no words, you can use those submodels to make the bulb light up and make things happen and just keep the face dark. So you just have another prop there to sequence with. So the submodels help out on the regular ones. The mega tree or the matrix, if you're using the face on that, there were questions in xLights a few weeks ago, and I helped somebody go through how to get multiple faces on your matrix. Or how to kind of relocate things on the tree. So over here, we'll just use this one because it's up. In your layer settings, you have this lovely buffer window. And currently I have Olaf on the whole window. Well, he went away again. Olaf doesn't like me. I have Olaf on this whole window. I'm supposed to. I'm going to go to the other file because it's easier to see. Anyways, discard. Yeah, I don't need to keep any of that. Give it a second to open. You can get as many, can get as many as you want on the panel because eventually it's going to look, squished. But you can, my mouse is not working. So here's Olaf on the P10. Oh, that's a singing bulb. Either way. If I grab this and scoot it over, I've made him half. And then I can insert a layer below. This computer is working. Also, You don't even have to scoot it over. I'll show you in a second. If you right click over here in the buffer, you can just do left half and it'll actually split it right in half. And then I can add the same face effect down here, and I can put it on the other half of the buffer. And now I have two singing elements. If I want it to be an ornament and the Grinch, I can do both. And this is where having all of those faces to choose from is going to be very useful, right? Because now you can put as many on here as possible. You can do thirds. If your matrix is big enough, I know I've done thirds, so you can have 3 of them singing, the left, the middle, and the right. You could do quarters if you wanted the 4. On my 2x2 matrix here that I have set up, it would be too small to do 4 people, but you could get it to work. You can do the same on your trees or even on your monster matrices, depending on how you have it in there. You can do the same on your trees. You could do a top one and a bottom one if you really wanted to. The thing that I want to show on the tree is if I change him back, and with the uppercase Olaf, I should learn this eventually. This Olaf doesn't look, he kind of looks sideways on here. You can make him fit better. I should have probably kept it on the big tree. If you don't want him kind of like leaning to the side, you can squish him over and try to kind of center him more for your viewers. I don't know why it keeps changing to the other face when I do it. It's kind of confusing. But you can see you can center them. I had someone last year who wanted a snowman on his tree, and the snowman image was just a little too small. So we did the oversized buffer, and we expanded it big enough so that the snowman would work on his tree perfectly. So you can still play around with those images using the buffer thing. Oh, and also with the last thing I was gonna say, with the P10 panels or P5 panels or whichever ones you have, you can also, if I delete this guy, my keyboard's over there, and I just have him, here we have Olaf, I'll put him back big. You can just double click there and it goes back big. If you say you want it to snow behind Olaf, where's my snow? You can drop it on there and you can have it snowing behind Olaf, and then of course you can mess with how much snow you want. You could, do a fan behind Olaf. You could do a butterfly effect behind Olaf. He should actually be, he should be below. Wrong one. Move him around. I need this effect to be at the bottom. And this one to be at the top. Makes a difference. It's because I deleted the wrong one. You can have different things behind Olaf. I know we've got also, that way you don't just have, when you have that big P5 matrix or that P10 matrix, you don't want, I wouldn't want all the dead space around Olaf. I would find a way to sequence around him, especially with Olaf being, as much black space as there was around him. The same thing would work with your face. Any of them would work. Here's the Grinch back there. You could stick an image of like Whoville behind the Grinch if you wanted to. There's all sorts of things you can do, knowing that you can layer them on top of a panel. It probably won't work as well on a matrix, like a pixel matrix, but using the P10 or the P5 panels would work really well with that. Same thing, we did that effects behind it, just making sure I did it. And then finally, the last little bit is just using the lyric tracks. Those can get a little complicated. What I was saying, not complicated, but when I was saying earlier, and I have lots of stuff because I have all of them here to show the difference. These were all of my models I had So if I just focus on the bulb right now, when I imported this lyric track, I imported it as a track. So when I first started it, all of these bulbs were stuck here on Blinky. So that's what I was saying. They don't work when they come in like that. You have to, I don't want to change that. You have to change it to whatever style it is. There are different things you can do with a bulb. You can, I didn't need to insert a layer. I needed to open this. So here's all your submodels. So here's my bulb. He's singing right now. He's yellow, or she, whatever you want to call it. I can take this lovely chase effect right here, or not, but single strand effect, and stick here, stick a chase, change the color so you can see it. And now you can see maybe, wrong one, that I've got a green strand going around. I can make it bigger. I can, there's green and red. You can play around with it. But while your bulb is singing, there's still some motion and some movement. Daryl actually was really good last year at doing the same thing with the socket and putting that effect on the socket. And then it makes it look like the bulb is like being screwed in to the Christmas tree or the socket, whatever you want to call it. But you can do those kind of things with it. You can take it if you don't want, and then this was one that we had a lot, that I've had a lot. Some people like their faces to go off and on. Like I personally, if they're not singing, I don't want them there. So I keep them off and on, as you can see how I set this up. Some people want their face to be on all the time and only singing when it's time to sing. So that can be done pretty simply too. So here's the same bulb. I can drop another face effect. I need to drop it on top though. Hold on. So I can drop another face effect. I can expand it through the whole thing. And here's where this phenome thing is easy. If he's not singing and you just want him, you don't necessarily want him off, but if you just want him, I hit the wrong thing. If you just want him resting, so as it plays, you'll see he's doing the oohs and ahs, and then he's just going to go to a rest mouth. Oh, what did I do wrong?
Shopping, 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 Christmas.
I should have put it below, maybe. I always have to remind myself. It's hard when you do things like this. Let's see. Or I could have not rendered. That's also the issue.
You love to hear thoughts of joy and hope and cheer, but
the render. I always forget to render until it doesn't work, of course. And it's going to take a while because we have all of them. But you can set him as rest. And then he should go off. Let's see if it works this time.
Christmas time is here, and Christmas songs you love to hear. Thoughts of joy and hope and cheer.
What did I do wrong? Oh, it's still rendering too. Give it a second. You can also have it if you don't want him on completely the whole time and you want him to come on and off. Yeah, I think it was supposed to be on the top. And then this is effect 2. I think that's where I messed up now that I'm looking at it again.
Thoughts of joy and hope and cheer.
Yeah, and then render. It works. I know it works on the P10 panels really well. I did that one earlier. I've played with so many of them in the last few days to try to get it all together. If you do want them off and on, we will extend the lyric track out and have them fade in and fade out so they don't just like pop on and pop off. So they'll, we just extend it a little bit, half a second or so before when you want it to sing, have it fade in for that half a second or even for a second and it fades in as it's singing. I'm still see if it's got it right
Christmas
this time.
Songs you love to hear, thoughts of joy and hope and cheer.
No, I don't know why it keeps doing that to me. I had it working. I know what I'm doing. It's because I'm trying to do it for people that it's not going to work for me. On the P10 panels, I know for sure you're going to drop it in below. Here it is. So this one is Grinch. So therefore, I'm going to want this one to be Grinch, which I just labeled as Christmas. I'm going to set him at rest, and then he'll be at rest, and then he should start singing.
Christmas time.
There you go.
Christmas
It should work on the light bulb too. I have something going on with the light bulb at the moment. And it's hard when you're, working live to try to figure it all out. You can have the same character singing the same part, or this is my lyric track, as you can see. This was Christmas Can by Straight No Chaser, so there was lots of parts. As you can see, I had the main vocals, background 1, background 2, background 3. My people, as you can see by all these little face effects, they jump around depending on what parts they're singing. I don't recopy and paste things. I'll just change what they sing. So here he's singing the main vocals, and then on this part he's singing background 3. Then he goes back to the main vocals. It's easier for me, instead of trying to make each lyric track match one of the elements. That's just a lot of work. So the ability to switch them out on the face effects makes it really more simple. Let's see. What other? We did those. The monster majors, we doing that. The pumpkins, this pumpkin one is just the normal AC thing. So you can't do quite as much with it. You can't really add color to it or anything, because it's whatever color your AC channels are. You can have them fade in and fade out though. So, hey, down here, if I just, hi mouse, if I just extend it a little bit on each end, I didn't extend it by much, and then I just use the normal fade, and we'll do half a second and out half a second. So now, instead of him just blinking off and on, you'll see he can,
Christmas
like there he's just going to go off. But you'll see him slowly come back in to start singing. It's just how you want to deal your thing. Oh, look, somebody tried to help me. Look, I look at chat. Did I miss something on my blinky thing? Thank you. Instead of blinking, it should be hanging bulbs. See, I knew it was something, and it's so hard when you're busy trying to figure it out and everybody's watching you. So now I changed it to blinky, or changed it to hanging bulbs, and you can see, you can see I don't have the same colors selected either. It's why he went off. So here, let's see, this one is yellow and white. So here you're going to want it to be the same colors, so that when it does go away, it doesn't change colors like it did a second ago. And oh, my outline's off. There it is. Fix that. So instead of having him go off and on now, since I have the settings right, you'll see that it stays right. So it'll stay on and stay at rest when it's not there, and then it'll sing when the shopping comes in, or when its face effect comes in. Thank y'all for helping me figure that out, because I didn't see that. I told y'all this effect setting window is the biggest issue. Like, if you're having trouble with your faces, it is normally this little window right here. I think that's most of it.
The xLights project exists because of people like you. Help continue the project by making a donation today at xlights.org/donate.